Jill and them coming on?
She will be just a few minutes behind.
Mm.
Okay, we are live and I have shared the link, you guys.
We ready to roll?
Yeah, whenever Mr. Watson is ready, we're good to go.
Okay, we're gonna start off with a statement by Martin Luther King, one of his speeches at Oberlin College when he was doing the commencements for the students graduating class in 1965. It says, "I'm sure that you have read the arresting little story from the pen of Washington Irving entitled Rip Van Winkle. The thing we usually remember about the story is that Rip Van Winkle slept 20 years. But there's another point in the story that is almost always completely overlooked. It was a sign on the inn in the little town on the Hudson from which Rip went up into the mountain for his long sleep. When he went up, the sign had a picture of King George III of England. When he came down, years later, the sign had a picture of George Washington, the first president of the United States. When Rip looked at the picture of George Washington, he was completely lost. He knew not who he was. This revealed to us the most striking fact about the story of Rip Van Winkle. It's not that he slept 20 years, but that he slept through a revolution. While he was peacefully snoring up on the mountain, a great revolution was taking place in the world. Indeed, a revolution which would at a point change the course of history. And Rip Van Winkle knew nothing about it. He was asleep. He goes on to say, there are all too many people who, in some great periods of social change, fail to achieve the newly mental outlook that the new situation demands. That there's nothing more tragic than to sleep through a revolution. There can be no gainsake of the fact that a great revolution is taking place in our world today. When we think about that, it is also a relevance to today. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jerry McIntosh, and this is Our Voices, the People's Media. And we're going to go straight to our guest, Mr. Bill Snow, who is the author of the great book, From the Project to the Boardroom. We have Mr. Derek Scott, who is the chair of the Democrat Party and also with the Black Caucus and so many other things that he do in our community that make things happen for us. We thank him for being a part of this show and a major part of our show. We thank him for being a co-host and working with us on many other things that we do in the community, along with Jill and Christina, who will be here shortly. We hope.
Christina had a commitment tonight, so she won't be joining us live. If she does, it'll be very late, but Jill's en route.
Okay. But Derek, I'm gonna turn it over to you, and we're gonna talk about some of the things we was discussing earlier today.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good evening and happy wishing everyone a great evening and a happy eve of Martin Luther King Day. Hope all is well with everybody. We have a couple hosts. I guess what I would do is before we do that, let's just do a quick roundabout and ask if there's anything going on. We'll start with you, Mr. Bill Snow. Hello. And if there's anything that you wanted to share, you think is of relevance or importance that we should know.
Just off the rip, I cannot think of anything except for the fact that say that tomorrow is a big, big day here in the Cola. The last MLK parade, there was a certain nostalgia in the air. It was different. It was loving. It was just warm. And I've been in a couple of those MLK parades, but it was just something different. I don't know if it was coming off of COVID and people were just excited about it, but it was very long by the time the Movement for Change group got back to the starting point. They had so many groups that hadn't even began yet. So just hats off to all of the people that put together that MLK parade. And y'all come on out tomorrow, y'all. Let's just enjoy, have fun, and remember the king, rightly named the king.
Also, Derek, I know I've been telling people Bridge Crossing Jubilee is the first full week in March, but it's not. It's the first week in March, the first weekend in March. Usually it'd be from, like, most people start getting there on Wednesday and Thursday and all of that. But this week it's going to be this year it's going to be the 1st through the 3rd, which is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm wondering why they made it shorter this time around. But for those who are going, it's going to be the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. The first weekend in March rather than the first full week in March.
Remind everybody, Mr. McIntosh, what it is, the Jubilee, what you're referencing, what it is we're celebrating for those who may not know.
Well, it was originally called Bloody Sunday. It's when John Lewis and all of them were beaten on the bridge and bloodied, and many of them almost lost their lives trying to cross the bridge in protest for the voting rights. And that was the catalyst that brought about the Voting Rights Act after they did the 2nd and 3rd. It was a 3rd bridge crossing. The first one was where they was beaten. The second one was they did a prayer vigil on the bridge. They started to go across the bridge, but they changed their mind because of the law. And they wanted to stay within the law so they could, challenge the laws itself. And the third one, they went all the way to Montgomery. They marched all the way to Montgomery. And that's, we're gonna address that too, because each speech that he gave was significant and powerful in that day. So we're gonna make sure that we talk about those speeches and address and dissect what he was addressing at the time. And that speech was in Montgomery was truly powerful. And we definitely want people to go and experience and make that pilgrimage to Selma, Alabama. Because if ever we needed to be a part of something, it is now, because our democracy is in dire strait. So hopefully that we will adhere to what is taking place in Selma on the first weekend in March. I'll take it back to you, Derek.
Thank you for that. I hope that everybody is able to get there. For those who are interested in attending, it is absolutely something that's worthwhile. I know it's funny, we were just having this conversation maybe 2 days ago with one of our co-hosts, Christina Forrest, who's trying to organize a whole trip and to do for those. So if anybody's interested, certainly, I know from the Panhandle, there'll be people going, and hopefully buses going, and so on and so forth. Mr. Bill, are you walking in the parade tomorrow, or are you?
You know what? It's still up in the air. I've got a request in to get those first couple of hours off, but I just wanted to piggyback on what Mr. McIntosh said as far as Bloody Sunday goes, that when those images were broadcast throughout the world of the horrific things that were done to those great leaders and followers trying to cross that Edmund P. Pettus Bridge. It called the White House had to stop sitting on their hands. They had to come out and make a stand and make a speech. So Bloody Sunday was a big turnabout in the civil rights movement. It really was, because the whole world got to see what had been going on all along. So fortunately, the cameras were there and rolling, and the news showed it, and it was a terrible sight, but it brought about a big change in the civil rights movement.
Absolutely. Well, I hope you get a chance to walk tomorrow. Certainly, there are plenty of options. You can walk with the Democrats, you can walk with Uncertain Movement for Change, and 50 other organizations that I think will be participating tomorrow. So best of luck. I did want to touch base on as everybody knows, we are still in I won't say a health crisis, but we need to make sure that people are paying attention and protecting themselves. I've heard countless number of people who are out due to RSV, contraction of the RSV virus, certainly of COVID, and a few that have a combination of RSV, COVID, and pneumonia all together. So please make sure that you are doing what you can to stay safe. We've always talked about in the past, and we will continue to shout this and echo these sentiments, to make sure that you get, as far as COVID is concerned, your vaccinations. They are still doing it. You can still schedule to get your booster shots. You can get, if you have not been vaccinated, please contact your local pharmacy to make sure that you get the initial shot. It is not too late. It still should be a priority for everyone, and certainly as they are wanting to maintain their health and good health, I should say, it is of paramount importance to do so. In addition to that, there are vaccinations for those, well, let me not say vaccinations, I don't think it's the correct term. There are shots for people who are wanting to protect themselves for RSV. I don't know if it's a vaccination, so I won't say that I think it is, but I don't want to mislead anybody. But certainly they are, if you have a great insurance program, it is free. There are pharmacies in Pensacola, Escambia, Santa Rosa, and Okaloosa County that are also carrying those vaccinations. So please make sure you check those out. And just stay safe as usual. If you can, wear a mask and social distance as much as possible. Outside events help, but just remain safe. We are still not out of the woods yet, and you still can suffer grave consequences as far as your health is concerned by, I won't say being reckless, but not being as vigilant with your health as you possibly can. So please make sure you do that to everybody. All right. So I'm sorry, did you have something?
No, I was about to say, yeah, I second that we definitely got to take care of our health as much as possible, because it's already short enough, so we don't need to help advance that.
You're absolutely correct.
On the earth.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I was in just before the show, I had to run to Walmart, and I was in Walmart, and I had been in there for like, let's say 7 minutes. And then it dawned on me that I didn't have my mask at first. So I left my cart exactly where it was in Walmart, and I ran out of the store and got a mask and came back in. Hopefully not too late by that time, but certainly, yeah, I still want to make sure I practice the same level of vigilance that we've been doing in the past. So
if you'll send this to me.
Okay, I'll send it again for sure.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So I wanted to share with everybody, and we'll talk as we get into the conversations that we have laid out tonight. I just wanted to share with everybody the status of the book bans. I don't know if you guys have been following along. I know we have made here in Escambia County national news, because we are up to, and we have exceeded everybody's history, list of book bans. We've exceeded that with over 1,600 books that have been banned in Escambia County. And I don't mean 1,600 physical books. I mean 1,600 different titles by different authors that have been banned throughout Escambia County. And including that is, drum roll, is the dictionary. What are you guys' thoughts on how they have, what they have banned and how this rampant attack is continuing to ramp up against knowledge, as I will say, and learning as we progress through this year?
I think, the lawsuits are going to help with that determination, Derek, because, it's really it's a dumbing down of America that's taking place. When you start banning books and stopping people from getting the knowledge that they need to help, help direct the country, you're dumbing down the American people. And that's a continuation that's been done. When you go back, even when we were now allowed to read, this information was out there, but we didn't have access to the information that affect our lives. And now that we are beginning to understand how history affects our life, now they want to take it away from us. But the thing about it, what they fail to realize to me is that all of this is already out there on the internet, but books are, and they can shut that down too if they so desire. But by the same token, that information is out there, and we should not allow them to, just because they banned the book, that we don't access that information through the internet, through buying books off of, we can buy books on the internet. We can go to bookstores and find information. I was in Chicago week before last, and I bought some books there. I found this brother's bookstore. He's going to come on the show with us, as a matter of fact. He might be on with us next week, his bookstore. And if people want to order books through him, he can get books for you. As a matter of fact, that's how I found this book on national reparation declaration. And definitely want us to study that and then address it on this show. Hopefully I can get, if he got enough books, that he can get enough books for all of us so we can read through it. Because it's not a thick book. It's, a matter of fact, has about, I guess, maybe 50 pages, maybe more, about 50 pages, 49 pages, as a matter of fact. And it is really, but it's so detailed. And it talks about reparation. It talks about things that we hadn't even thought about, how it affected our life. It talks about how much money that the nation made off of us, how we was abused through the Middle Passage, and even the lynching that took place, and all of those things that affected our lives to this day. So I'm saying that we should study that, and we should continue to fight and struggle for reparation, because we definitely, our people definitely need to continue to push forward and not let us get distracted by the big shiny objects that they always throw in our face when we're about to bring unity about reparation. So we have to continue to push that forward.
Bill, what are your thoughts?
Man, I think it's just, I can't make any sense of anybody or any group that would come against people actually reading and learning and growing. It just amazes me that people are so dead set. But hey, man, I'm at a loss. It's incomprehensible to me to try to reason with why anybody would choose 1,600, and now you're saying the dictionary. I mean, man, I don't know where to begin, Derek. I just don't get it, man. And then again, we have the right and can, and a lot of us choose not to. But I guarantee you, man, like Jerry said, it's out there. The info is out there. So if we choose to not grab a hold of it and get these books while we can, because at the rate they're going, man, next few years, if the right wing has its way and these folk that are afraid of people waking up continue to do what they're doing, we're looking at a real bad situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the good thing, I will say, if there's any glimmer of hope, this past week, I had the opportunity to sit in at the federal courthouse here in Escambia County. The attorneys on behalf of the Escambia County School District filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit that was brought against them by several parents, parents of students, as well as authors, some of which have been banned in this very county. They filed a motion to dismiss, and in that, before they went to court, the attorney general for the state of Florida, Ashley Moody, asked the judge to allow attorneys that represented the state to also sit in on that and argue on behalf of the dismissal as well. And that was, I believe it was Wednesday. And in that, the attorneys, and I will say, shout out to the people who were in attendance, because I will tell you that that federal courthouse, courtroom was packed, to say the least. And in that, the judge, there were 3 different counts that they filed the motion to dismiss. And of those 3, the judge refused to dismiss 2. He did dismiss 1 based on the way, I guess, the argument was made, is that they were, and I'm not an attorney by any stretch of the imagination, but they tried to file suit based on it was discrimination against a protected class, so they made it a 14th Amendment violation. And the judge saw that his ruling, or his opinion, was that no, it's not necessarily discrimination against a protected class, because it's the books. So you can't transfer discrimination against theories and text to people. You can't transfer it onto it. So, of that, but he did not dismiss it with prejudice, which means that the attorneys on behalf of the authors and the parents and the children can go back and restructure and refile the arguments should they choose. Now, in my opinion, based on what the judge said, I doubt that my read on what he said made it sound like I would advise for them not to do so. But 2 out of 3, based on the arguments that were presented, are not bad. The 2 noteworthy things that he said out of that hearing, which was like from 10 to 2:30, it was pretty much the entire day. He said that his concern was that one person was able to be the linchpin to set all these books to being banned. Because, here in Escambia County, they're being banned by just one specific person, right? So, to see that, he said it's troubling that one person can do that, and he has a problem with it. And I wanted to scream, like, could you say it louder? Because the person who has banned all these, who has set this process in motion, was in the courtroom. So, everybody looked to the left to see, like, are you paying attention? Because he's talking to you. And then the second thing was that he strongly urged that the district come up with a way that would remedy this from going further on the trial. His quote was, "I'm not sure," which led me to believe that if this goes to trial, the judge is not going to rule in favor of the school district, because his quote was, "I'm not sure that this is the hill that you want to die in," which to me says, figure it out, and figure it out quickly. Now, I don't know what remedy they will have, and I think by law, they have to go to mediation before the trial. So maybe something will work itself out. I don't know what and how advantageous it will be to, democracy and children's rights and the ability for children to read what they want. But the interest, I think what I got out of it, which I don't know that a lot of people know, is that apparently what they said in the court was that even the books that are restricted or banned, that parents can opt back into those books for children to read, which I thought was interesting. I was like, And I was like, well, if they can opt in, why don't you? If opting in is the way to allow them to read, why is it not opting out the same, way that you should go, which has always been the parent's choice or the parent's right on behalf of their students for the longest time. So I did find those two things to be hopeful as we move forward in this process, but let's see how they go.
Well, you said that the one person that initiated all of this, but you'd have to believe that the one person is a figurehead. They are backed by so many people. I mean, one person requesting these books be banned and then them following suit and actually banning those books. It has to be more than one person. And then again, it's not just a Florida thing. This thing is happening across our nation. So it was bigger than that one person, even though that one person represents the figurehead. It's the right wing that want to impose their views, their logics, their whole thinking upon everybody, and that's what makes it wrong. They preach all of these freedoms that we have, and then they turn around, and when people start gaining knowledge, they start banning books. So it makes absolutely no sense at all.
Yeah,
the reason they banning books, they don't want their children to see what they have done.
Right, absolutely.
Because they don't want their children sympathizing with, especially Black people. Atrocities and all of that has been done was done by their parents and grandparents, and so they don't want their children to, because this is what this really all about.
Jerry, I agree with what you're saying, but that should have been done years ago. Their stance now, but I think it's a little too late with the advent of the internet and the WWW, man. You're right. And they're ashamed of it, and rightfully so, but it is history, not in the sense of his story. Yes, it's his story, but it's history. It happened, and that's what makes us on the move for those reparations that are due us. But the atrocities is the perfect word for what you're speaking of, because it was atrocious, man.
Yeah, and continue to do it. Go ahead, Derek. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Derek.
go ahead, please finish your thought.
No, I was just gonna say, the atrocious ideology that's behind all this stuff as well is continuing. When you see the Supreme Court is trying to gut everything that was done during the 60s, 50 some years ago, they are trying to overturn the whole century of the early from 19.
Right, the 20th century. Yes.
Yeah, the 20th century. Right, they're trying to overturn the 20th century. So that's the whole crust of this thing, and this is why they are pushing so many justice that are not justice, but they are unjust in the and when they can gut the Voting Rights Act, when they can kill affirmative actions on the college campus, when they can kill women reproductive rights, and then the person that appoint these people get up and brag about that he was the catalyst behind Roe versus Wade being overturned, and people are still voting for him, and he has such a large lead over his other opponents that is a shame, and they're talking about violence in the process.
Yeah, and I did want to go back to something, Bill, that you said earlier, and and I agree with you 90% of the way. There is a much larger backing of people on the right wing that are moving this engine along, that is book bannings, right? But I do want to point out that nationwide, 90% of the books that have been banned at the behest of just 3 individuals. So it's not a group of people, so to speak, that are putting in all these challenges across the nation. Just 3 people, literally 3 people, not 100, not even 25, just 3 across the nation. So that this is as a result of what we're doing, just of the 3, and we know one of those 3 are here in Escambia County. It is troubling, to that degree. But yes, I agree with you that there is a machine that is moving beyond that, where we are.
You're absolutely right. But at the behest of these school boards throughout not just the state, but the country, that actually see it their way, would mean that there's a big group of people. Man, these people show up at the book ban meetings, the ones that are pro book banning. So yeah, 3 people, but there's a lot of people that are lock, stock, and barrel with them.
Yeah,
and a lot of them sit on the courts.
And some of them are preachers, and some of them are Black.
Right.
That are supporting book banning. And I'm like, how in the world can you be Black and support book banning in any form? If you don't like it, don't read it. If
right.
you don't allow your children to read it, you can opt out of it. You don't have to. And these books are not the ones in the classroom. They're in libraries. So what they want to do is ban books that in the library that a child or a person might have to, they might decide, well, I want to see what's in this book, and if you don't want your child to read it, don't let them read it, because they cannot take it out of the library if you say, I want my children to opt out of these, certain books.
Right.
And I disagree with the judges. What Derek was talking about is as far as a protected class, because most of the books that are being banned that are African American books, people who are gay and lesbian books, other books that they think don't fit their narrative. So I'm concerned about when the judge say, that's not a protected class, because for so long we had to fight in the 60s to get books into colleges, into libraries. And when you think about it, many of the authors who have these books, most of their resources come from libraries. When the libraries and other entities buy their books, that's what make a book a good bestseller. And many times it's not so much that everybody else is buying it, but these libraries and schools and colleges and all of them, they buy them and put in their libraries for people to read. And so I think, it might be a reason behind where he says it's not a protected class, but then it's a First Amendment problem as well.
Well, when you go and throw preachers in the mix, and then Black preachers at that, you have to also take in consideration that if preachers are upset about the books that are in question, then you would have to ban the Bible.
Exactly.
I mean, it makes no sense. It's all in the Bible, man. Sodom and Gomorrah, cheating, adultery, it's in there. So it makes absolutely no sense. I tell you, church and state, I don't know, man. It makes no sense.
Yeah, we were, Mr. McIntosh will tell you, we were in some of those hearings where a preacher was like, you have to admit some of this stuff.
I was there.
And I was like, what? No, I don't agree with you. And he was like, I kept saying in your opinion, and he kept saying, oh, I guess I was being disrespectful, but to me, I was being respectful by saying, in your opinion, I was like, no, I don't agree with that. I'll never say that. You can again, as a parent, you can choose what your children are subjected to, again, just by opting out of certain type of literature. You have that right, whether I think that is right, wrong, or whatever. That's not my case, because I'm not a parent. That's your child. The problem, again, that I have is when you think that you have the ability to make decisions, again, for all children. That's where the problem comes in. Just because you think in your narrow scope of thought that it is bad for your child does not mean it's bad for all children, or for any child, from that perspective. So it becomes a problem. So I'm cautiously optimistic that we will see a different side of this court situation. And, I'm curious as to whether or not this will be a hill, to quote the judge, that the districts want to die, as we move through this process.
You're watching Our Voices, the People's Media. You can give us a call at 850-206-3776 if you have some questions or just want to make a statement or opinion. Give us your opinion on what we are addressing tonight. So give us a call again. That's at 850-206-3776. You can see above my head, Our Voices, the People's Media. Jill, how you doing?
Doing okay. Thank you so much. Glad to be here. Good to see you guys.
Always a pleasure.
So what we are talking about book banning. What's your thoughts on it?
I think right now I'm glad I'm in Okaloosa County and not Escambia, because we were kind of able to push them out. Two of them ran for office and they lost here, and then they moved y'all's way. So I'm glad we're in Okaloosa, but the bigger picture I would say is, as long as we have the people that we have in office that are pushing this, and until we do something to get rid of them, because for us, I'll talk about Okaloosa, our superintendent, I was going to say supervisor of elections, superintendent, directly appointed by DeSantis, directly, like called him up on the phone and said, you're going to take this other person's place. And what he says is, I'm going to uphold whatever I am told to do, and I'm doing it in the way that I'm told to do it. And as long as you have that direction, even though we understand it, and I can remember us having conversations saying, hey, should we fight back and say, well, take this book off the shelf, take this, because we could do that. And that's one way to do it. But I think the bigger picture then would be just a tit for a tat, and we would have nothing in the schools, and we'd be learning nothing, and we'd be sitting in courts all the time. I'm hopeful. I guess for me, I have kids, and I can't imagine that if something bothered me that they were going to read, that I would feel the need to put that on everybody else. And that what I would have done is just addressed it with the school, the teacher, the superintendent, the principal, whoever, the library, all of those options of which all of these parents have. That's the way I would have handled it. I don't think it's our right to tell somebody else what they can and can't read. And what I would say is that I think I can say this, because my grandfather was a pastor for many years, and therefore my dad was a child of a pastor, and so I'm gonna be a child of a pastor, that sometimes people will look at you, and I'm saying this of me, so nobody else, it wasn't me, but I'm gonna talk about me like it's me. And they'll say, well, they couldn't this and they couldn't this, because they have all these strict rules. When your parents are pastors or your grandparents, you have all these strict rules, and then you're coddled. And then you get into the real world and things happen, and you don't know what's happening to you. You don't know what you're getting into. And you can, at times, get into things that you didn't get to experience because of the way you were brought up. So instead some of this, not that I ever want anybody to experience it, but I would surely want my child to know the difference of whether somebody's supposed to touch you or not touch you. I would want my child to be able to relate, if they are LGBTQ plus, with somebody who is like them and know it's okay, because most of the people around them aren't. I would want my child, if they were a child of color, to be able to relate to other children of color. I mean, there's just things that I think that they're trying to say they're not supposed to read, but they're going to hear it eventually, or they're going to experience it eventually. I believe, yes, maybe in some instances you could say this isn't good for K through 5, or maybe even 6th through 8th grade. But to say just take it completely off the shelf just because, I think that's to the extreme, and you're not taking everything off the shelf. I believe that if we wanted to, we could go through every book and find something.
Right.
If we wanted to. If we were like them, we could.
Right. You know, Bill was right. When you go read the Bible, it talks about killing, it talks about incest, it talks
It's
about
all in there.
yeah, rape, it talks about everything. So you know, everything that's in those books, you know, it talks about men loving men. All of those things are in the Bible. So,
and I don't see them, Jerry, going to the churches, telling the churches they can't have Sunday school.
Yeah,
like all the churches, like any church, whatever your denomination is, they're not pushing the issue. Can't go to church. They're teaching out of some kind of Bible, and
exactly.
in most of the stories have some kind of something, because depending on what you believe, but it's a book of life. It's so that everything that we experience on earth is supposed to be
slavery, all of it.
All of it is in there. So when they, if they really believed what they say they believe, then that would be their next step. They'd be at every single church, every single church. You can't have Sunday school.
Hypocrites.
Yep.
Because when you go back and read about David,
they're not pushing the issue.
Had somebody killed to deal with the guy's wife. So
right.
when you see all of these things that are in the Bible, and you read something that's taken out of content, and they're not reading the books themselves. Somebody send them something that's in the book that's taken out of content, and they're running with it and haven't even read it. And that's what's so unfortunate about it. And but the thing about it, we have to continue to push forward and make sure that there's alternative, even if the books are banned, we can let people know where to go to get that book if they want to read it. That's the thing about it. We have to continue to build our libraries. So, and whenever I buy books, I try to buy 2 or 3 of them so I can give somebody, if somebody I think they're going to read the book, I give it to them so they can read it. Because I've given people 4 and 5 and 6 books at the same time. When they come to the house or something, they look at what the books they want. Oh, I would love to read that book. So if I got 2 or 3, I'm gonna give them one. Mm-hmm. And that's why I always buy more than one, so that I can give somebody that book and they can learn it. They can learn from the book, especially the history of our people. And that's all. That's the only books that I really pick up is the history of our people, and I let people know that's all I got in my library. I got one that's not, but and that's because somebody autographed it. but the rest of them are all on African American history, where we came from, not just starting in slavery, but going back to Africa when we was ruled the world, when we was kings and queens, still are kings and queens. Too many of us just don't know where our royalty lies. And we are confused. And with this elaborate psychological warfare that takes place every day in our life, we don't understand what's taking place, how we are being demoralized and continue to be divided against each other and forced to really hate each other in many instances.
Right. You're absolutely right about that. Well, if we move on to our next topic, we talked about MLK. So let's talk a little bit about the suicide of the Vice President of Student Affairs. Did everybody hear about that this past week?
Yeah, and it was such a tragedy that that was at Lincoln University. Her name is Dr. Annette Bailey is her last name, but she was the president of Student Affairs, right?
Vice President of Student Affairs,
Vice
yes.
President of Student Affairs, and she was from what been told is that she was being abused while she was there, and I think that I don't know if I would have killed myself. I think the fight would have been a public fight, as far as I'm concerned. You know, you have to bring things to the fore, and not because now she's gone. You know, that's too much knowledge we are losing, and it's a constant thing. Just a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks back, one of the president of Harvard University was pushed out. You know, all of these great women with all this great knowledge and has the potential to make things much better for students of all races, because they are not just focused on Black people. They are focused on making sure everybody get a good and proper education. And that, you know, and you got these people out here talking about diversity and inclusion shouldn't be in the colleges, you know. And then if you saw what Elon Musk wrote on Twitter about HBCUs, the pilots that come from HBCU, that they have an IQ of 70 or 80, not like white pilots who have an IQ of 100 and 830 and 40 and 50 on up, and which is a big lie, because HBCUs is one of the most nurturing, collegiate programs in the country for Black people. Most all your Black doctors, 70% of your Black doctors come out of HBCUs. Before, all of your leaders before now came out of HBCUs, and they were better. You know, all of the people that's inventing things. And the sad part about it, Elon Musk haven't invented anything. You know, don't let anybody fool you think he invented the Tesla. He didn't. He just had enough money to buy the people that were building the Tesla.
Where did he get the so-called IQ results from?
Right.
Just something he just come up with off the cuff.
Yeah, him. And you know what it came from? When the dough came off the plane, they said that was because of DEI.
Oh,
inclusion.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry. When what? Say that again?
Boeing. When the door came off of the Boeing airliner.
The door flew off of.
Okay.
Airline.
It was because of what?
DEI. He blamed that on DEI.
Yeah, on diversity and inclusion.
Equity and inclusion.
Yeah.
Wow.
And how does that even correlate? I mean,
that's the point.
What is DEI?
Right.
That's the point. It doesn't correlate.
Right.
I mean, he's sinking X. I mean, all on his own. He's just sinking it. Twitter. He's sinking it.
Yeah, and seeing the thing about it, him and Fox News was Fox came out with this crap first. Then he just started tweeting about it. And then he went on to say, to measure the IQ of Black people at Black colleges versus white universities.
Wow.
I mean, these people are some of the most sickos you ever want to see. And Elon Musk, but he come from South Africa.
There you go.
Most people don't realize he's from South Africa. His dad and folks had diamond mines or whatever they had over there, and that's how he got his money. But it's not because he's some kind of genius. He's not.
He isn't.
Just inherit a whole lot of money, like Trump. Trump, one of the dumbest people on the planet. But
yes, he is.
A lot of money.
People tell me all the time how smart, and no, he's not smart.
No, he's not. He
at all.
Yeah, well, this is how, again, uh, you have to, and I think we have said it time and time again, you have to vet what people say and take it for what it is. Everybody who says something, just because they say it and they come from a position of quote unquote authority, does not mean they have the knowledge or skill set. I mean, because even on the statement in and of itself, prima facie doesn't even make sense to say that Black pilots have a 70, 80 IQ versus their counterparts who are non-Black have 140 or so plus. To your point, I don't know that every pilot is tested on their intelligence quotient, test. That doesn't make sense. B, if they are, you certainly don't have access to the data, nor have you conducted a sample size of any sampling. To me, scientifically, it just doesn't make sense. But again, because there will be people that, because Elon Musk said it, oh, it must be true because he's not, he's smart, and to your point, he's not smart, he's dumb, he might employ some smart people, but intelligence is not transferred. You don't get it through osmosis or being surrounded by other intelligent people.
Or having a whole lot of money. Can't buy it. Well, you can go to college and
Right. And the thing about it, for him to say that, and I hope that Black people who are listening don't go and buy a Tesla, because he's saying how he feel about you, that you, because, I like Tesla myself, but, I wouldn't buy one now for nothing, because of the language he used, how he's describing us as idiots, in other words. We are just a little above being what they call artistic, I guess. Back in the day, they used to call us retards, so this is the kind of people that are running industry in this country, that, they are dumb as hell, and they are dumbing everybody else down in the process.
Tesla stocks are just happen to be down as well, so.
Yeah, I guess that's.
Circling back to Dr. Bailey, in this, I think for me, here's what I will say, what has happened, or the most recent development in this case, is that their president has been put on administrative paid leave, from this as a result of this, because, for those who haven't followed the story, she suffered, according to those who were around her and those who have been close to her experience, she suffered a lot of bullying and in a hostile work environment at the behest of the president of Lincoln University. And so she even apparently she suffered poor reviews during her tenure there under his leadership, and was even fired, just a day or two prior to the end of her life, and it says something where people can bully you to the point of you not wanting to be. And, I don't think he's even remorseful in any shape, fashion. I think he's like, well, she's no longer here, and she's no longer in our educational institution. Let's keep it pushing. There's something, maybe it's the triggering part of me, but there's something that people, particularly when non-people of color, try to bully or educationally demean or look down upon or think that they can do things to people of color just because they have that privilege. It's something about that doesn't, it irritates my soul. I personally, I know I see it on a daily basis where folks will do something or say something or lie or on somebody's name or try to get people just because of who they are based on the color of their skin. And it is the most irritating thing. And I've tried my best to try to handle it in a professional manner, but it's challenging. And although thankfully and prayerfully, I haven't been at the place where I wanted to end my life. I have wanted to introduce some folks to my hands at times, but that's just me. I will say it like that. And so I don't know. Jill, what are your thoughts on this?
So if you read the rest on what you just said, I wish people would. We all have so much stuff going on. That's what I'm going to say. And no one's perfect, but it certainly is not your place to try to make my life perfect when your life isn't perfect. If you're not helping someone, because that's what we're here for. We're supposed to be helpmates to each other. You're not helping someone and you just don't like them because of the color of their skin or because of their disability or because of who they love, like whatever, then you're not benefiting this world.
Right.
And you're expecting those of us who might be of color or disabled or like and love somebody that you don't agree with to be beneath you, to be less than you, and to shut down and say nothing. This is what she experienced in a different way. And then when they reach out or you speak truth or you say stop, you act like you're not doing anything.
Right.
And like somebody else has made it up. She didn't make it up. In our lives, we don't make it up. We know each and every one of us on this show and watching this show have had a situation or something happened that that the person who said what they said or did what they did was wrong. And many of them that don't look like us are able to say, either turn on the tears and act like they're the victim, or, oh, but we didn't know. We had no idea. Oh, did that hurt your feelings? Oh, we shouldn't have said that. Oh, and then still say it. Don't say sorry. They just say, oh, we shouldn't have said it. That's different than saying, you know what, I truly apologize for the pain that I caused you. And how can I make it better? Anyway, on this, I would say this. If you read, they just got some of her emails. And so in her emails, she actually wrote all the stuff that happened and she went to the board. She asked him, she said she's severely depressed and had severe anxiety and asked for FMLA, which you're supposed to be given if you need it. And he didn't, he denied it. There was no hope and no help for her. And so it is unfortunate. We know our kids do it. We know stars do it, people that have lots of money. It's unfortunate that this brilliant lady didn't have another
recourse,
chance, opportunity. Just a second, I got kicked out. Give me just a second. Sorry. Another opportunity for somebody just listen. And some of her friends, the person who talked to her right before she passed away, said they missed it. Like she sent them an email and she talked to them and they missed it. And being that, I think I told you guys this before, two people that I know, I felt like I missed, who both ended up killing themselves. You just never know. You absolutely never know. And because you don't know what to do. But I would say at any time, if somebody's hurting, listen. Absolutely listen. Because you just never know if that one, Bill said, Jill, it's going to be okay. And then Jill can say, okay. Bill told me it's going to be okay. I'm going to believe it's going to be okay. Jerry called and checked on me. It's going to be okay. Derek tried to make me laugh. I had something to laugh about. Christina called and said she loved me. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just that one little touch. And when you get overwhelmed and you're depressed and you have anxiety and you can't, where was she going to go? She really felt like she was at the last, clearly, without speaking for her because she's not here. It was so bad that even in the day when she talked to her friend, she couldn't tell her what she was going to do, but she couldn't stay here on earth. So for them to put him on administrative leave, that's not going to bring her back. I guess they have to investigate. I would be interested to see in what are they going to do?
Right.
What are you going to do, not just to him and to the system and to the board, but what are you going to do to fundamentally change so that the next person that has this situation, you can save a life? Or are you just going to say, do the, how sometimes they just go through the process to say they went through the process and then say, there's nothing we could do. We put in some different rules and some different regulations, and everybody's got to go to training and sign something. So there's a lot of people who believe that if you've done something wrong, microaggressions and just things that they might do, and they think that they can just go to a class or you can just put on a program. We're going to have racial healing and it's just going to happen over a program. That's not the way life works. It takes more than just a class, a book. You have to really understand it. You have to really engage and communicate with people. You have to really understand the other side, like literally in all aspects, whatever we're talking about, whether it's a color, like I said, there's so many things that happen. But we can't bring our life back. That's one thing we know for sure.
Right.
And I don't know putting somebody on administrative leave and just one person. Why not the whole board? Because she reached out to the board and the board specifically said, hold on if I have it here. Let's see if I have it, hold on.
Well,
it said the management of personal issues for Lincoln University is not under our management and we do not engage in it and we will not be taking further action. That's what the board said. So here's somebody that's heard it.
Him, and they sent it back to the president and said they aren't doing anything about it.
They're not doing nothing. So it's not like she didn't try every avenue that she thought she had.
Now, Jill, let me ask you this: as a woman, when you look at Nicole Hannah Brown, Hannah Jones, and Justice Jackson, and Kamala Harris, and others, is it because these are powerful women that these men, these white men, are trying to continue to push out and to push back down to where they think Black women ought to be in their psyche?
So I'm not a white man. So I'm not sure that I can give my opinion, but I'm not a white man. But I do know that they are intimidated. I can tell you, I was in HR, and as an HR director, I sit very high up in the chain of command, and often you just the belittling, the well, why do you say that, or do you really have to do this, or oh, here Jill goes again, or whatever the case might be. And that's just in my small little realm. So what I would say is that for some people, for a lot of people, I don't think, and Bill, I think might agree with me, maybe, but I don't think the world is ready for a Black African-American president. That Kamala got in, she got in, but I'm telling you, they're not ready. So no, they feel threatened by, and there's no way they don't like Black men, but there's no way they're gonna let a woman do it. It's just, I know you guys, now don't take this wrong because I'm female. I know from my son telling me that you guys take it every direction, like every direction. But they let Obama get there. They're not getting, there is no way in the world they're gonna let a Black woman be the next president for a while.
Yeah.
So call that what you want. I can't white, black, purple, pink. I'm just telling you that a Black woman in power threatens them. It threatens them because it's almost like we threaten them and then we threaten their wives and their girls. And it's like, I don't know. It's almost like they think that you've taken everything.
Yeah. I think that's why they are so focused, and this is just my opinion, but I think that's why a lot of white Americans are so focused on Joe Biden's age and his ability to lead the country for the next 4 years should he get elected. I'm concerned, I think, and again, this is just my opinion, that they are concerned that, God forbid, something happened to Joe Biden and he passes while he's in office. And then the next person who assumes the mantle of the president of these United States would be Kamala Harris.
Right.
So at that point, it's like, well, wait a minute, he's too old. I don't think they think he's really too old. I think it wouldn't be a problem if it was Joe Biden and fill in the blank, Gavin Newsom,
like
or Joe Biden and fill in the blank, some white woman. I don't know. But the fact that it is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, oh wait, age is a problem. He's too old. He's too old. He's too old, and that's the narrative that's being pushed. It's not that he's too old; it's that she's too black and she's too woman to assume, just in case something were to happen to Joe Biden and he passes in office, then the next thing you know, we have our first black woman president, and that all hell I think would break loose. So that's why, to me, in my opinion, it's just my opinion. I don't have any facts, data, or to back it up, but that's just my humble. You take it for what it is.
We have to understand that this election year that we are in, with a sitting president, inflation doing well, infrastructure has done well, oil, we're producing more oil than some of the Middle Eastern countries. That has always been 2 thumbs up for the sitting president. So you and Jill are absolutely spot on. That is the biggest fear. It's always been the fear for them to choose this guy that's the Republican front runner over what we are experiencing in this country. I mean, from where we were 3 years ago with COVID and that lunatic to where this country is now, by far, we are better off. No one's asking that question, though. But we are. The economy is doing good. It's headed in the right direction. It's an election year. Generally, the incumbent is a shoe-in. But for, absolutely, Jill, but for Kamala, the country is in a frenzy. They're making all kinds of excuses, age, everything. But we all know, but more importantly, they know. They know, man. But by default, he will win this next election. And by default, their worst fear just may very well come to fruition.
Yeah, I want to read Don Taylor's comments online on Facebook. Don says they didn't put President Obama in office, God did. And then she follows that with, I'm confident that Vice President Harris can be president despite what some think about her race and gender. And
Amen.
I think, to Don, to your point, I don't think there is a soul on this panel that disagrees with what you just said with respect to Vice President Harris and her ability. If you watch us consistently, you hear, although our beloved co-host Christina is not with us today, she will give you a 2-hour show on how Kamala Harris is the best thing since sliced bread. And again, none of us on this panel disagree with that. But we're not able to quote the statistics for 2 hours the way Christina does. But in and of itself, we're just our co-hosts on this screen, on this panel. And, again, none of us here are white. So, and again, I say that being just from my experience of what I think of and what I see and hear, I don't think it's a concern of age. Because when you look at it, there's not much of an age gap between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. There's not whatsoever. You're talking about just a couple of years. And if you want to look on health, allegedly Donald Trump has bowel issues. He wears diapers. There's not there. If you're talking about someone
if Elon
from a health standpoint, I'm not sure that You have a sound logic in that. If it's one or the other, I know, Jill. You'll talk to me about it afterwards. I'm just saying, like
if
look
Elon
at it,
wants to weigh in on somebody's IQ, that's the one whose IQ he should be weighing in on.
Right. But for whatever reason,
we have Carlton Myers with us this evening. Attorney Carlton. Hey, Carlton.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Happy
All right,
New Year.
man.
Happy New
Man,
Year.
it's been a while.
I've been reading your emails.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've been busy. Around the country. There's a lot going on, but with tomorrow being MLK Day, I just wanted to make sure that I dropped in and said hello, and maybe throw some stuff in a little bit. There's a lot going on. Y'all know I'm on the Reparations Commission in Illinois. So we've been doing some work. There's 3 of us now. So there's California, Illinois, and New York just passed theirs into law recently. So we're the 3 statewide ones. And then there's several that are local around the country. So that's amazing that we're getting a lot of momentum around reparations for African Americans. That's really picking up a lot of momentum this year. So that's excellent. However, and I'm sorry, I'm going to be the downer on this conversation. I did say this 4 years ago, and I'm going to say it again. Biden ran on a campaign that, he was going to pass HR 40. Okay. Congresswoman Sheila Lee Jackson from the Texas, from the CBC, she introduced that bill several times and reintroduced it. It would essentially create a commission federally that would study reparations for all African Americans for the whole country, not by state, not by locality, for the whole country, which I'll be honest, the biggest challenge for us in Illinois, which is also the biggest challenge for California, also the biggest challenge and will be in New York and has been locally, because all of the reparations commissioners, we all come together in national webinars that are being put on. And we talk to each other about what our struggles are. And I can tell you right now, it's hard for us to figure out what reparations is going to look like, because the story of African Americans, as you all know, Florida is very much so a part of that story, is the story of migration, right? We are constantly traveling. Our ancestors have constantly traveled. And so to try to pin down any which way to say, well, you deserve reparations because your ancestors came from and came here and number one, where's the paperwork, right? It's hard to find that because a lot of times it did not exist. Number two, even still, how do you even justify, well, that you deserve it over somebody else who's Black, right? So all of that would be shut down very easily if we just did it uniformly for every single state federally. That's why Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee introduced HR 40. HR 40, President Biden ran in 2020 saying that if he were elected president, he was going to sign it. And that way we would have reparations federally. We'd have that research going. It's been 4 years now. It has been sitting on the desk. Representative Congresswoman Lee, she's been pushing for it. It has not passed, okay? Once again, voting rights. That was something else Biden said that he was going to pass for Black people. Okay, the John Lewis Act, et cetera. It's been 4 years now. What's going on with that? The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Nothing, okay? All I got to say is this. I've been talking, with the reparations work I do, the work I'm doing in the Midwest and in other parts of the country. I do a lot of work with young people. I'm doing a lot of these public safety community listening sessions focused on gun violence and community violence with young people. And they're telling me that they don't want to vote for Biden this year, okay? And a lot of them are Gen Zers who this is going to be their first presidential election that they will be voting, okay? And they are saying they do not want to vote for him because of what's happening in Israel, all right? And listen, I don't have an opinion on it any which way, but I'm telling you what these young people are saying, all right? The other thing I'm hearing, and this is from people that are our age, meaning older generation, to people that are considered young millennials, who are not Gen Zers, but they're in their 30s and stuff. There's a lot of them that I've been hearing, Black people, who are saying to me that they're not Republican, but that they are conservative, okay? I don't know if y'all have been hearing this from a lot of Black people, But I've been hearing this now, and they're telling me that they think that things were better before Biden became president. And so there's a big push. I don't know if you're seeing what's happening in Nashville, Tennessee. Candace Owens, she has been working with Ben Shapiro on creating this production company. I think it's called Direct Wire Plus or something. So they've been putting out movies and documentaries and shows. Candace Owens has been like the main star for a lot of it. And they're doing it as a way to kind of have it tailored for young millennials, because that's what she is, right? Black people and other people of color, so that they have somebody to look at and say, you know, I like what she's saying. It resonates with me. I think I'm going to vote Republican this year, or I'm just not going to vote Democrat, right? So there's a lot of that going on. Then you got Cornel West. He's out there doing a lot of work with Muslims and Arabs, really, really touching on that nerve in a good way, and with young people. And so there's just a lot going on right now where all I got to say is this. If Biden just did one thing that I had said 4 years ago, okay, which could have been the Voting Rights Act, could have been HR 40, right? It could have been the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Whatever it was that he made his thing, that he put his foot into it and said, I don't care what the Republicans say, what the moderate Democrats, right? Because they do exist, that are like, don't do that, don't do that. That's going to hurt the blue, Democrats, the ones that are like the blue collar white, Democrats don't support Black people, right? Like, no, if he would have said, no, I'm going to be bold and I'm going to do this because I want to get reelected. I'm not going to be a one-term president. I think even if he didn't win on it, but he showed the effort of putting his foot in it, that this kind of issue going on with people talking about being conservative or young people saying, I'm not going to vote, for Biden. I don't think that would be happening as much. I think that he would have that to stand on, and people would say, you know what, he's still fighting for us, right? He said he was going to do it and he did it. He didn't say he was going to do it and then not do it. So I do want to mention that is happening at the same time as everything that you just said. So there's a lot of issues that I think are going to come up at the DNC convention, which is in Chicago, where I live, right? And so I hope that Biden gets it together. I know Clyburn has been all over the Sunday news talking about his concerns about the Biden administration not engaging the Black community enough to get through the MAGA wall. I also heard that President Obama has been raising some concerns with him as well, that has been leaked out into the public. So I do hope that he's listening, and I hope that he starts actually doing something with Black people. And, we'll see what happens. But, either way, I'm still here doing the work, and I'm looking forward to working with you all to do the work. Florida right now, I'm so sorry for y'all, but I do look forward to what you're going to do on the other side after DeSantis comes back from losing the Republican primary and is essentially going to go on a whole, burn everything campaign in Florida before he's out of office. So, like I said, you already know I'm here as a resource. I'm out here doing work everywhere else except for Florida, but I'm waiting for y'all to let me know, and I'm there. But I'm waiting to see what's going to happen after DeSantis, because I already know y'all already got it. Y'all already got the talent. You got the resources. You just need him out of office. And I already know you're going to be moving forward. So I look forward to that.
Now, Carlton, on the reparation legislation, like you say, it was some Democrats and Republicans that voted against HR 40. And it couldn't get to the president's desk. And all the other legislation that you talked about, like the John Lewis Policing Act, George Floyd Police and Justice Act, none of those passed the Senate or the House. So it couldn't get to the president's desk to sign it into law. I agree with you that he should have put more force behind it as the president, to push harder. Even if you lose, then you go to the people and tell them, I fought for this, but here's the legislation that I couldn't get it through because we had two Democrats in the Senate that voted down, and we had some in the House that was against it. So you have to go out and, and show that you was for it, but these people was against it. And it would protect him as well, because then the money for, one of the things he did good was for, on the federal level was that the loan forgiveness in those colleges for those on the federal level, even though he couldn't get it passed on other components of it. But I think it would be a mistake for people to believe that the president can do this by himself, because it's legislators that get these that has to do the grind these issues out and then get it to the president's desk to sign it, because he don't do that, But I do believe that he should have pushed a little harder, much as a matter of fact, too. But even though he couldn't get it done himself.
Yeah, I think it's even more detrimental to think that because Joe Biden or President Biden didn't do it, that any one of the individuals on the Republican side can, and more importantly, will, because they won't. When we look at, talk about where we are right now as a state of a nation, all of the problems, and you talked about, where we are in Florida and how bad off we are. We aren't bad off in Florida due to Democratic rule and policy. We're where we are because of Republican issues. And so in Florida, I would be hard pressed for someone to think, and maybe they do, and we're just willfully not tapped into what's going on. But I would be hard pressed to think that that anybody, millennial, Gen Z, or younger, who live or reside in the state of Florida can think that their life or the state of Black people could get better under a Republican leadership. That I would be hard pressed to see that. I don't know why anybody would think that, but to yours and Mr. McIntosh's point, there is a fair critique that there should have been more of a push to get HR 40 and George Floyd Justice and Policing Act through in terms of legislation. Again, understanding that we didn't have the votes in the House and certainly not in the Senate to get these things done. To his point, it's not there it goes, thus say I, and we have it. So how do we get those things done as we combat? And this is why it's important to do so. And when I think of presidential terms, although it is a per term president, I look at what he's going to accomplish, hopefully over the course of a 2 election cycle period. And while it may not have gotten done in the first, there's still hope in the second, but we got to get to the second in order for that.
Got to get those seats. We got to get those seats.
Yeah.
And even go ahead, Jill. What are you about to
I agree with what Derek just said, but I guess I want to, Carlton, can I ask you a couple of questions and you not be offended by my questions? But since you're out there and you're getting the Gen Zs and the millennials and the people that are our age and the people that are older than us, and you have hands-on conversation, intellectual conversations with them, what is your response to them if they say, hey, outside of the war, because I think the war is a little bit separate, but any other reason outside of the war is a little bit different. We'll go to that next. But outside of the war, if they were to say, hey, I just don't think he did this, and I don't think he's this, I think I'm too conservative, I think I'm whatever, what is your response, knowing that, because we know that the alternative, so if you send DeSantis back home, that means Trump's staying up there. So I'm just like, if you send them back home, that their alternative is Trump. And that means all the hard work you're doing, all the hard work your team is doing is gone, because he absolutely is not giving you a penny for anything that has to do with anything that is Black, African American, LGBTQ, disabled, women. I can keep going and keep going, because he don't like anybody. So what are you combating them with, or what education are you sharing with them? Because you're hearing it. It's great you're sharing it with us so that we know what to do here, but you're on the ground. So share.
So Okay, I can tell you this right now. This I want to answer your question because I think this is the best way to answer it. The Democratic Party, and this is why I mentioned the DNC convention being in Chicago and how I think this is going to be kind of crazy this year. The Democratic Party is very divided right now. Like, I think the Democratic Party is more divided now than it's ever been. And the reason why I say that is Chicago, where I live, or Illinois, is a clear example. The migrant crisis has really torn asunder the relationships between the Latino or Hispanic population and the Black population here in Illinois. And the reason being that the migrants are coming in, and I'm not talking about the people who are Latino that are born and raised in America. I'm talking about the ones that are coming in as migrants that are not citizens. They're coming here and they're receiving resources, they're getting housing, they're getting jobs, like right on the dot when you have Black people that have been living here how long homeless, trying to get those resources, paying, when they were born and raised, taxpayers, all that, and not getting anything, okay? So there's a lot of division going on around that. And this is all within the Democratic Party. This has nothing to do with Republicans at all outside of Texas, Texas sending the migrants to Chicago. That's it. Outside of that, it is a Democratic fight. So that fight is also happening in New York. This is not just in Chicago. It's happening in a lot of different places right now, just on that issue. There's also issues happening around LGBTQ. Now, when it comes to the trans issue, there are a lot of Black people that don't agree with that. There's a lot of very conservative Black people, especially the Black church, who do not agree with those kinds of things. And to be honest, the way that Candace Owens, I don't know if you've been listening to the stuff that's been making the airwaves. I mean, I'm talking about her stuff that's made CNN news, that she said recently about trans people and LGBTQ. She's been very vocal about these things. And when you have conservative Black people or conservative Latino or conservative Asian people who are very religious and who stand by those kinds of views, they're more than likely going to listen more to what she has to say than to what a Democrat candidate like a Biden who's pushing for LGBTQ type of things, because it just goes against their religious beliefs and their conservative principles and values. I've had that told to me by a lot of Black people, including young Black people who consider themselves to be conservative. And they're very proud of it, or consider themselves to be Christian, religious, and very, what they would say, very, fundamentalist, I guess. Like they adhere to the Bible in regards to what it says verbatim, rather than just like, interpreting it to mean something. So like, there's a
vengeance is the Lord.
Yeah, exactly.
It's saying it doesn't say that vengeance is ours. It doesn't say that we're supposed to judge.
Right.
And I can hit them on every side, but I get it.
You could, but I'm saying I'm not them. But at the end of the day, they are there, right? They're a part of the Black community in this country, in every state, in every locality. They're a part of the electorate that's going to have to vote in November of this year. And so at the end of the day, if we agree with them or not, if we want them to vote for Democrat, we're going to have to figure out how do we get them. And this is what Clyburn was talking about. He's very concerned about Biden not being able to break the MAGA wall as it relates to the Black community, because I'm sure he's hearing the same thing over in South Carolina. He's hearing Black people that are more conservative and religious that are saying, I really don't like this really hardcore, radical, perspectives on trans stuff, or even when it comes to abortion. I mean, there are a lot of, people that are religious who are not for abortion, who are Black, and that's always been the case. I mean, always been the case. So, the Democratic Party, in my opinion, something that they haven't done a good job at, and this has been said for decades now, is how do you align all of these different values and ideas and ideologies that are under one umbrella, right? How do you have them all align with each other in a way where it makes sense, where they're not conflicting, but they can find the commonalities amongst each other to say, you know what, we can agree on this. Now, in 2020, Biden was able to do that by saying, hey, you guys don't like Trump, right? You're tired of dealing with him. for 20 years or whatever, for 4 years. So if you vote for me, he's out of here. Everybody was able to unite under that umbrella, and that's how he got elected. This go around, that's not going to work. And that's why Clyburn is worried. That's why Obama is worried. That's why Simone Sanders, who worked for Kamala Harris, she recently came out on MSNBC and said she's worried and specifically told Biden, this is what you need to do to engage Black people right now. So he's not doing it. And that's what I'm trying to say is that I feel like Trump and his people through Candace Owens, they found a way to get her to be their token, to get those people to say, you know what? I didn't like Trump, but I like what you're saying and you're Black. So you know what? I might reconsider. And it's working. It's working. That's what the numbers are showing. There are more Black men that are now more aligned with Trump than they are with Biden, than there was 4 years ago. There are also more Black women now as well. So there's something going on with the messaging that the Democrats have to figure out. And Obama's getting on them about it. Clyburn's getting on them about it. And Simone Sanders is getting on them about it. So I don't know what they're going to do, but they got to do something. They got to do it soon, but they got to do something.
And I agree that that it has to be something done pretty quick. And one of the things Pam Keefe always says is that you have to have an infrastructure in the Black community already in place. Don't wait until time to vote to do that. Have money on the ground already for years. If that infrastructure is already in place, then you have people that can go from door to door or go out and talk to people, whether it's in their home or church or wherever, to make sure that the only thing you need to do then is to get people out to vote because they already have the information. And I agree with that part of it. But I know that if people are intending to vote for Trump, they're intending to vote for dictatorship. And it will rule the day. They will rule the day that they voted for that clown because, and I see what you saying, Carl, because I know you're on the ground. And I was in Chicago when I saw these people out protesting against the mayor, and they was at the office of the mayor down there speaking about what has taken place, that all these other people who are getting housing, and they've been trying to get housing for years. I saw that, but I still also saw that we can't lose our humanity in the process by allowing people to be out in the freezing cold. And I know that there are people who've been out there for years looking for housing, but I think that the people should have been fighting for them a long time ago, rather than waiting to, waiting on what happened now, because we know that the governors of these southern states are sending these people there purposely because they know that the convention is going to be there, and they are there to disrupt and to use that their marketing skills to destroy the Democrat Party there in Chicago by going after a progressive mayor that's I think is very progressive, but by the same token, the state itself is helping to get these people into housing, and the federal is doing the same thing. But it's making it look as if it's the mayor's fault and the people, and the administration of Chicago's fault. But by the same token, I cannot see children sleeping on the street in the ice cold right now. I think it's about 7 below it.
Yes. Yes, -7. Yep.
Yeah. So that would be a tragedy.
Yep.
Have people out there on the streets. They got to do something. But because we can't lose our humanity because of what the inhumanity of the people that's sending them there in the cold when they could be out there in Texas around the border where it's a little bit warmer.
I'm gonna have to side slightly, just slightly, Jill. Lower your eyeballs. With Carlton, Biden showing up on an election year at Mother Emanuel. he knows he has that crowd's vote. That's the older people, you know, but the game will be won in the red zone, guys, with those young people. We've said this time and time again, and the Dems must find a way to reach that voter. That will be the difference maker. We are, well, my age group and up, y'all young, but we're monolith when it comes to voting in the Democratic Party, and you can't tell us anything. We're what red dog, yellow dog Democrats. We're gonna vote. But I do believe that this election will be won with those young folk, and we must find a way to reach them. But echoing what Carlton said, I hear young folk, and it is a sad commentary, but I'm hearing it too much, and it's almost panic time. We're coming down, y'all. We got what, 10 miles? Yeah. So.
Yeah, I was talking to my cousin Ricky in Chicago, as a matter of fact, this morning, and he was telling me about a lot of the people that he talked with, and they are talking about voting Republican.
Yeah.
Like, you know, have they did any research whatsoever except listen to people like Candace Owens and others, Peters and all of these people that's out there who are carrying the water for a dictator, wannabe dictator, and not trying to figure out for themselves what kind of person this is. And he's telling you, he told us that on day one, he want to be a dictator. And he've already told them that he want to end the Constitution as we know it. He don't want, he said the Constitution is an inherent hindrance to him as the president. And he want to reshape the courts of this country and everything else. So he letting you know he intend to be there to the day he died as a dictator and a dictatorial, autocratic, totalitarian clown that's going to be running this country. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, I think this is good that we're having this conversation, but I want to bring in, to your point on how we address this, you know, we look at additional data points in which we need to share with Gen Z, young millennials, whatever that age bracket is, or in, as you put it, more of our Black men and women who are leaning more towards a conservative viewpoint, to the point that they're considering voting for Donald J. Trump. How do you, what then does that person in that mindset say to them, which is his most recent comments, that the Civil War was handled wrong and could have been negotiated?
Right.
You know, how do then, as someone of color, irrespective of your church upbringing, your belief in the Lord God Almighty, your thoughts, whatever they are, on LGBTQ issues, that may lean you more conservative, if that's how people identify. How then do you jump across that monstrosity of a hurdle that says, nah, they could have negotiated to keep slaves a little bit longer and handled it a little differently. All you had to do was read my book, The Art of the Deal, and that would have told you how to do it. How then, what then do you say as someone from that, in that perspective, how then do they feel about voting for Donald J. Trump? Because, you know, when you say, I'm concerned about voting for Biden, then to me, that says you're then voting for Trump, because there's not a third party candidate to this point where you can coalesce behind with enough people that would emerge victorious. So if you don't vote for Joseph Robinette Biden, you don't voting for Donald J. Trump. How then do you coalesce that or coincide that with, or reconcile, the better word, that you're voting for someone who believes that you could have negotiated a better deal for the Civil War. How then does that work? Or is everybody familiar with that quote? I guess.
Oh yeah.
What are in the thoughts behind that before we have Mr. McIntosh? Why don't you just share for those who are watching, who may are hearing me say that, and they're like, "What the hell are you talking about, Steve?" I'm like, what that means or what he said.
Well, he was saying that in other words, he would have negotiated our freedom. You know, he would have determined whether we should be free in a timely manner or not. He would have done whatever it takes to keep us into slavery as long as possible, rather than going to war or going into a civil war. And what he failed to realize, it was more than just slavery, as one say, was the cornerstone of the South. But at the same token, the North was going to go to war with them anyway, because they was blocking them from getting to the seas and all of that. And they wanted to make sure that economically, that the wheels of economics was rolling toward them as well, because the South was so strong because it had the slaves in it. And that was it. They were going to go to war regardless, whether he would have negotiated or not, because they're the engines of economics of these powerful people that was in the North. They were not going to sit back and allow themselves not to have access to the seas and oceans and all of that. They were definitely going to do it. But the thing about it, what Trump was saying, that he didn't care whether there was access to by the North or not, and he definitely didn't care if slavery was over because of the Civil War. And he's still talking about the Civil War, and there are people like him all over this country want to continue the Civil War, and they want to revise it and say that it was something tragic, which it was, but slavery was more tragic than that, because they didn't, he just didn't want to have our people free, and the reason why is because he's afraid of Black people, period, rising to power. And that's why he tried to destroy President Obama when he ran for president. He went after his birthright, everything else. He went after the exonerated 5 in New York, said they should have got the death penalty. And even after they got out and was proven that they didn't do anything wrong, he still went after them. So he said he never believed that they was not guilty. And he didn't even, and only when he became president, oh, okay, President Obama he was born here, as if he had the right to make that determination. But the sad part about it, when we look at this dude and Black people talking about voting for him, he was saying, in essence, you shouldn't have been freed in the first place. You were going to be free sooner or later, but if it was 1,000 years later, oh, well, but that's exactly what he was saying. There.
I think he was waiting for Carlton to answer.
I was going to say that I was at NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund in 2016 when Trump first ran for president. I was working with him supporting voting rights efforts in St. Louis, Missouri. And so I was going to different voting poll locations and just making sure that, adhering to the law, staying certain feet away from the location and all that, just had like one-pagers so that people knew their rights going in there. And that was it. And then, of course, if I saw anything suspicious, I would have to, mark it and then inform certain people about that. And we would have that, of course, for our own purposes at LDF in regards to our evaluation of that voting station. But something I noticed in 2016, because it was me and like 2 other colleagues at LDF who were like spread out throughout the St. Louis County area. And And I think I had gone to like maybe 5 different locations. It was the night of voting. And I know I was at like at least maybe 2 or 3 different school locations, and then 2 other community, style, maybe community building locations. What I noticed was that a lot of, you could tell a lot of people that were Republican came out, because every time I would offer them a 1-pager, they would just either completely ignore me or tell me stay away from me. And they usually were white, but you could tell, and then, the people that were Black, they would be more, open to receiving or to say thank you, be more pleasant with their engagement. But what I that there weren't really many Black people that showed up to vote compared to the white people that showed up to vote. And what happened in 2016? Trump got elected, right? And, we saw that in St. Louis, like me and my colleagues, we talked about it later, like that was kind of weird that we didn't see a lot of people come out that we would expect for the Democrats. Like we thought Trump being a joke, he's the Apprentice star, like who's really going to vote for him? We thought it was going to be a landslide victory for Hillary Clinton, and it was the opposite. And so, with everything that y'all are saying, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, Trump is a dictator. We should be scared about what another 4 years of Trump is going to look like. But at the end of the day, that may not be enough to guarantee that he does not get reelected. I mean, and this is what goes back. Can you hear what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
This is what goes back to what I was saying 4 years ago about Biden being elected and about what is he doing for Black people? Because, these days, these young people and just all of us, we have access to the internet. It's not like you have to go to the public library to look this stuff up anymore. You have people putting out YouTube things and videos on this. People are watching this on TikTok. They are seeing what the Democrats have been doing when it comes to Black people and other populations, where they make promises time and time again for how many decades now, and they have not come through. And these young people in this younger generation, they're fed up with it, okay? That's what they tell me. And there's nothing I can tell them to convince them otherwise, because they think they know it all because they have the internet. Anything they need to know, they have access to that information. So whatever I'm saying, they can easily counter it by looking something up and saying, well, according to this, you're wrong. So it's just, at the end of the day, the best way to convince young people is action. So something I hear from a lot of young people as to why they think Trump is better than Biden is because they actually receive. It's the same thing I hear about reparations. The number one thing that Black people say at the events we hold, when they say, this is what we want to see in this process, we want direct cash payments, okay? People said when they got that check in the mail, and Trump's signature was on that check, they, to this day, have not forgotten that. It was like Christmas all over again for them. And that is the one thing that Trump has done that they will always remember when they go into that voting booth on November 2024. That is what they're going to remember. And Biden, in my opinion, has not done anything in their minds that comes to that level. We know that he has, but they don't. And that's the problem for Biden, is that he has not. That's what Obama said. You have not been able to translate what you're doing with the young Black folk and just the young people. And because of that, I'm worried. And Clyburn is worried. And Simone Sanders is worried. We're all worried. What is Biden going to do? And I'm sorry, in my opinion, I don't think Biden's going to change his game up that much. I think he's going to continue to do what he's doing. And that's just what it is. So in my opinion, we're stuck. Okay. I mean, it's either Trump or Biden has to either bow down and step down in order to change this dynamic. But if it's going to continue the way it is, then I think Trump is more than likely going to get reelected, or the alternative is going to happen where neither Biden or Trump hit 270, in which case the decision goes to the Speaker of the House. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but I just think it's going to be an interesting election year. And we'll see. In my opinion, this is what I predict. And I've already said this publicly, so I'm going to say it here publicly because it's already out there. So it's not like this will be the first time I'm going to make my prediction. This is my third time I've made it publicly. This is my prediction. I predict that neither Trump nor Biden will be on the ticket for the 2024 presidential election. That's what I predict. And so I've said this since last year, actually since 2 years ago. And already we're starting to see states taking Trump off the ballot. And we're starting to see states like Florida talking about doing the same thing to Biden. So we'll see what the Supreme Court decides. But all I'm saying is this, we're already seeing efforts to try to remove them off of the ballot. All right. So I don't know, but I would not be surprised if we get some dark horse candidates on both the Republican and Democrat side, like Nikki Haley. She might end up being the candidate. Who knows? Trump might end up getting indicted or something, and boom, or he gets sick. Who knows? She might end up being the candidate. Biden's not going to win against her. He would have to step down. Newsom might end up stepping in. He's already been on a shadow campaign anyway, so he's already ready to go. And we might end up with a Nikki Haley versus Gavin Newsom presidential election. Who knows? All I know is this. It's going to be a very different presidential year this year than any other year before. That's a fact.
Well, I will say you'll have to, just like I said to Mr. Bill up there, you'll have to make sure that you come back on the show when you see Biden and Trump on the ticket, and you can publicly say, "Oh, my bad," to everybody who's watching. My bad, I was wrong. The folks on the show that they tried to tell me, but I was wrong.
My prediction was only that Donald will not be the nominee.
I know.
Derek, can I interrupt and further add that after you come on and say, sorry, I was wrong, you then do all of your advocacy to help us make sure that Biden wins. But at that point, we would need, because it's great. It's not great. I'm not saying you're wrong, but what I am saying is that I wish Christina was on here because she could give you 5 million things that Biden and Harris have done.
Well, they've done amazing
young
things.
People. She could give a million things. And I know, I wish she was on. She's not on. However, so you have to go with those of us that are less as educated as her and as passionate. But I think what's missing is the educational piece. So yes, it's easy to get somebody, I mean, I don't know, whoever you like, whoever it is, if they get up there and say this, that's great. But that's one single little piece. They're not looking at the big piece. Guess what? If somebody tells them that Trump is gonna, I don't know, he's going to be for, no abortions. So they're good. But he's also gonna be a dictator, and you're not gonna have to worry about it because you're probably not gonna be able to even get pregnant in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, it's so
one child per family.
Yes, you know what I mean? He's that type of person. Like, no, your mom had 2 boys. You can't have no kids. I'm sorry. We don't want no boys. Next, you can't this. I mean, it's so powerfully crazy how that he can just spew what he is going to do. Now, I don't think this time it's anything about him saying it. If he says it, he absolutely plans on doing it. And how do they miss that? Because that's on TikTok too. It's everywhere. How are they missing that the person, okay, you don't like Biden because of this, because he's not doing enough? Well, traditionally, you're right. They've always said, I'm not going to tell you that we disagree, that Democrats that they take us for granted. That's always been said. I don't know that they could turn it around that fast if they wanted to, because it's so deeply rooted. Even older than myself, those seasoned, you can't change that because they've always felt that way. For the young people, they are looking to us. They listen to what we say. And that's why I said, Mr. Carlton, they're listening to you too. So if I hear you say it, I'm also listening. So it's one thing if she says it because you're fighting for reparations. So wait a minute, Carlton said he needs to do more. So I'm just saying that I'm not telling you he doesn't need to do more, but is 2024 the time that that's what we want to die on as the sword we want to lay on? Because we can absolutely say, you know what, you take us for granted. You don't do enough for us. You're not doing enough for our kids, or this or that or whatever. And then we can have Trump, or we can have Nikki Haley and Trump, or we can have whoever and whoever. And then they will have nothing. Like this year is so much, we say it every year, you know, this is the election of a lifetime, but this is the election as to whether you will have a dictator and you will feel like you are in freaking Russia for real, that you could be. I can see him like taking a group. I can see the Holocaust happen again. I can see slavery happening again. I can see all of that under Trump. And he says it. I'm not seeing it because I'm a visionary. I'm seeing it because it's what's coming out of his mouth. How can that be better than Grandpa Joe and fabulous
Grandpa Joe.
Kamala Harris, who happens to be a strong Black woman? So freaking what? They're going to fight for you. They're going to do what's right, and they're going to do the best they can to make sure it's equal. And can we not wait till they win to then hold them accountable? Because that's us. Our job is to hold them accountable. So we don't think they did enough, then we didn't hold them accountable enough. But I don't see any of us on here or in the realm of the political Democratic DNC or NPAs or anybody else that's going to be able to hold Trump to anything. Because he's already told you, I will be a dictator. I will eliminate any power you have. And you might never have another election, because if he has anything to do with it, there will be no more election. It will be him till he dies.
On top of
that can't be better. It can't be better. And that message needs to get out there. It can't be better. Doesn't have to be perfect. We have to stop thinking you're going to have a perfect candidate, or that I'm not telling you we're not important, because we absolutely are. We're important. Our kids are important. Our grandkids are important, but they're important enough for me to vote Democratic because I know I don't want that fool in charge.
You know,
so how do we get them there? And I don't know what words you can say to, if somebody believes, if you don't believe in abortion, let's just say that you just don't believe in it. Guess what? Don't have one. It's like the book ban. Don't have one. That's your choice. If you don't believe in abortion, then I hope that you're a man. So you men on here, don't, I'm not gonna tell you not to have intercourse. That's not what I'm saying. Don't be with somebody who feels like they want to have an abortion. You know, that might be a conversation you have before you get into that type of relationship. That I don't believe in this, so therefore, should something happen, we're gonna have to keep the child.
That's a whole nother show.
Choice. You can't tell. I mean, it's exactly like the book ban. And I know I'm going way, way over here, but I don't know. What do you want Biden to say to that? You want Biden to come back and say, no, I don't believe in abortion? He might not, but he still believes in choice. I mean, what is he going to say? I guess that's what I wanted you to tell me is, what can he say when you put your foot down and you say, I don't believe in abortion. I just can't. What do you want Biden to come and say and do? What does Obama want Biden to say on that? What does Clyburn want him to say on that? What's he supposed to say? Obama started, when Obama got elected, he started with he didn't believe in gay marriages. And the one thing that when I opened my eyes, I was like, what the heck? Obama just signed off on that. You know,
politics.
You didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Re-election politics.
But politics makes you, and you know what I mean? So what is it that you think on that alone that's going to change their mind? Because if you're just, I don't believe in it, that's fine, then don't do it. How is that so hard? In the Bible that they want to quote so much, God gave us choice. That's how Adam and Eve happened. That's why we're suffering right now, because there was freaking choice.
So I can tell you, if I worked for Biden on his campaign, if there was one thing, just like with the information I'm gathering from young people, all that conservative, non-conservative, liberal, fringe, whatever you want to call it, right? The one thing he has the power to do right now as president that, in my opinion, will completely turn around his approval rating when it comes to young people across the country is to reschedule marijuana so that way now it can officially be recreational and medicinally legal across the whole country. If he does that, which he has the power to do within the executive branch, then trust me, young people across the country, even white Republicans, because there's a lot of white Republicans, especially in Florida, that, and I know this because I lived in Florida, and they have all them shops out there where they're waiting. They are waiting for Florida to pass this so they can flip those shops around so that now they're dispensaries, okay, and make some money. So them white boys in Florida too, okay, they're Republican, but they are heavily invested in the marijuana industry because it is a lot of money. So if Biden were to do that, trust me, they will say, you know what, I usually don't do this, but I'm going to vote Democrat this year because Biden just did something that's going to help me make a lot of money. So I'm just saying, and with youth, young people, they're going to be like, oh, what, he just legalized it? So I could just walk around and smoke and not have to worry about the police coming after me or losing my job or blah, blah, blah. So there's certain things that, in my opinion, you have to think. Like Trump, he was able to give a check to people with his name on it. I know, I'll wrap it up. With his name on it. And that was enough to get people to say, you know what, I remember it. And I'm going to remember that in 4 years later when it comes time to reconsider you an election. And I just think, whoops, oh no.
We hear you.
You're good. We hear you.
Sorry, okay. I was going to say, I just think that Biden can do something like that, something that is so generalized, something that's so rudimentary, something that's so trendy, right? Like kind of like trendy, and that young people can like TikTok about it and be like, yo, did you see what he did? Right? That's what he needs to do if he wants to turn his approval rating around. Not talk about Bidenomics, okay? Not talk about like you did, like abortion and all that. Like that's in one ear and out the other with most people. Some people, they care about that stuff and they're like, yeah, thank you. But most people are not. They care about basic things. So that's all I'm saying is keep it basic. Do something you can do now that's simple and easy, that's like broad appeal, like reclassifying marijuana. That's easy. So that's all I'm saying. If I were him, that's what I would do. So
Okay,
Thank you.
our time is up. As a matter of fact, it's 9 o'clock. I just want to reiterate that we want people to get this book, the National Reparation Declaration. It's the only one I'm going to show. Derek, I'm turning back over to you.
Okay. Well, with that, we thank you for tuning in to our voices. Thank you to all the co-hosts. Happy MLK Day to each of you. And we will see you next week, same time, same channel. Have a good week, everybody.
Good
Take care.
night, everybody.
Take care. Good to
All
see
right,
y'all. Have a
Marvin.
good day.
So much.
Right.
All right.